St. Patrick's Day seemed to be a popular time for the students as well as the faculty to celebrate. We painted Chemung Street green, and one of our students found a bathtub on the curb that was out for junk and painted it green, and we had a parade down Chemung Street in a green bathtub. And that became an annual event for a few years until the local police thought maybe it'd be better that we not do that.
And the Marlin farmhouse was owned by the college. It was part of the college property when the land was donated by the Hope.
That, at the time, was Bob Chapman's home, and he was on sabbatical in California. And there was Dick Slody, Lester Rosenblum, and Joe Cambridge were living there. They were all single, so you know what kind of activity was going on.
They decided they'd rent it to the two of us, and probably looking back, they shouldn't have.
When they were building the campus here, no matter when I came here, you know, there's one person that I observed walking this campus, Mr. Fred Parsons. The gentleman would walk this campus. He had a big old hat with these furry flaps on it, but he never had it tied under his chin. And this thing would whip around in the breeze like so, and he had a long coat, heavy winter coat, and these black rubber galoshes over his shoes, and he'd just be traipsing all over this thing. And you could see in this man how proud he was to see what was going on here.
After I was named library director, Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer was finally printed in this country.
The city of Corning was going to ban Tropic of Cancer. I probably guessed that 10 people in the whole city had ever even heard of the book. Dr. Jack Martin took the bit by the horns. He went right out and bought a copy and put it here in the library.
We had to have it because it was a censorship thing. So I found someone in town who had it, and we got it.
Gunars loved tennis, but Gunars was kind of a straight arrow kind of dean, 8 to 5 kind of a guy. We wanted him to play tennis with us.
We went into his office, and I said, Gunars, we want you to play one day a week.
And he wouldn't hear of it because that would not be the proper image for a dean to leave half an hour early.
He said, I have too much responsibility here. I called the president's office, Don Hangen, and I told him that Ed Herman and Joe Hannock and I were totally unsatisfied with the job that Gunars was doing, and we wanted a meeting.
We walked in, and the president said, oh, I'm in real trouble now. What do you guys want?
And Don sat at the end of the table, and we started off, and we were trying to keep a straight face.
Whenever you see a division chair and a couple of senior faculty come in, he begins to worry.
You see the lights come on in his eyes, and he said, you're talking about tennis.
He was so glad that we were not after something too serious. He agreed to this.
Don said, absolutely. He is going to be required to play tennis with you.
We told him we had a meeting at East Corning at the Criminal Justice Facility, had him in a car and stole him.
That was the start of it. And that was the nice part about playing with Gunars. I mean, he was my boss. But, it's like playing golf. You get to know people on a different level. And when you have a problem, you can sit down and talk, and come to a solution that's agreeable to both of you.
And I told my students, I said, I'm going to fight through the snow and the ice and all the rest. I'm going to get up this hill. I'm going to be here. You be here too. Don't come in late. Be here on time, blah, blah, blah. And especially for exams. Don't you miss one of my exams, because you have to come up with some incredibly good excuses that are verifiable if you want to take a makeup from me. So don't miss my exams. Well, you know what happened, of course, the day of an exam, 8 o'clock, and I overslept. I got up here about 9 o'clock, and I was very embarrassed about all of that. So, yeah, I did miss a class.
It was in the 70s, and we were permitted to smoke at our desk at that time. And she had emptied her ashtray, and she's sitting there working and typing, and always just, oh my gosh, it's so hot in here. I can't stand it. And kept on working. Pretty soon she said, my gosh, it's hot. Well, then all of a sudden, flames come shooting up out of her wastepaper basket.
We made a bet on the presidential election of 1968. And it was a real silly kind of a thing. But the bet was this. If Hubert Humphrey won, he was going to push me around campus, wheel me around campus in a wheelbarrow. If Richard Nixon won, I was going to wheel him around campus in a wheelbarrow. And of course, the rest, as they say, is history. I mean, Nixon won. I had to wheel him around campus in a wheelbarrow. And of course, all the media covered it. The newspapers took pictures, and it was on the news on television, and it rained. The day we did this, it was raining.
The first ever spring weekend with alcohol. Party was going to take place up on the soccer field where we had stands, we had bands coming, and it snowed. It snowed 2 inches that day, and we had to move everything into the commons where our security just fell apart. I mean, people knowing that the beer would get cut off at a certain time, they filled trash cans with beer and hid them in closets and in rooms and things like that, so we really kind of lost control. Probably 8 o'clock, Bob Frederick came down and said, okay, turn off the beer and drain the taps. So we opened the taps up and poured the beer out on the ground over behind the gym, and we had veterans, and I remember one huge guy whose last name was Kay, Marvin Kay, and he cried.
Back there in the early 70s, streaking was very big on campus.
Streaking, yes. I had a very good view of a couple of people streaking across the campus. So that was rather humorous, I think, from a non-administrative point of view.
So I came into class that day at noon to teach, and I had the chills. I guess I had the flu, and the room seemed chilly. So I went over and I slammed that sliding glass door closed. And when it closed, it jammed, the lock jammed onto it. Well, the back door of the room opens up, and in comes this kid, bare, nothing on other than a bandana around his forehead. And he comes streaking across that classroom, anticipating that glass door is open. And he jumps over the heater, and his foot slams against the glass door. And one leg is on the one side of the heater, the other side of the leg was on the other side of the heater, and the glass door is jammed, and he is there for the next 3 minutes trying to get that window open. This had to be the longest time period in that kid's life.
My secretary walks in the middle of a lecture, and she says, we have a problem downstairs. And I says, I'm in the middle of a lecture, I'll come down at the end. And she says, you have to come down right now.
The science building back parking lot, you could get in through the doors.
My automobile. The students had picked up my car and carried it into the science building. To this day, I don't know how they got it in there.
And he had to figure out how to get it out. But at that time, it wasn't ramped. There were steps into the building from all directions, so he couldn't just drive it back out.
And I looked at that car, and everybody's standing around kind of, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? And I laughed, and I said, okay, I've got another half-hour lecture. It better be gone by the time I get back.
I taught in the prison for 1 year, and again, I didn't feel threatened by it, although one of the guards warned me I shouldn't leave my purse in such an obvious place. He said, they're not in here for cutting Sunday school.
They had a computer system down there, my grades on the computer. And lo and behold, one of the students broke into my grade book and changed his grade.
The Corning Glassworks, now Corning Inc., had made the 200-inch mirror for the Palomar telescope. And they had made in 1935 a 1/10 20-inch telescope working model. Decided to donate it to us, specifically Jack Anderson. And it was in boxes, and it was painted a hideous blue, and my wife could not understand why I was excited over all this junk. Without any doubt, we have the best observatory on Eastern Seaboard.
The day in 1998, when I received a phone call from the Dean of Oxford University in London, I thought it was a joke until I chatted with him, and obviously he had the British accent, and he said that he was reading about our honors program here at Corning Community College. Our 2 students, Debbie Dodge and Susan Dunlop, were the only 2 students, were the first students from community college to go to Oxford in England.